If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Casebolt. Welcome into Simply the Law. We're so happy you tuned in, and I've got to tell you something, my friend. I am so happy to see you because you always come with a smile and a word of encouragement, and if ever I needed to talk with you and see you, and maybe our friends too, now's the time.
Isn't it a wonderful life, my friends? We were given this gift of being able to talk to each other and hang out, smile. Come on, smile. It probably could be worse. So if it could be worse, smile. Right?
Hey, you pointed out to me the other day on our radio program, you said, Keith, notice all the things that you're experiencing. More time with your family, more time with your friends, reading, talking, interacting, the things that are coming your way, and start trying to take a list of the good things that can possibly come out of this situation.
Oh, let me tell you, I'm trying to learn how to loaf.
Relax?
Yeah. It's amazing how nice it is once you figure out how to do it a little bit. You might try it, my friends. How you guys doing, gals? Good to see you. Good to be with you. I can tell you that. At this age, it's good to be anywhere, especially here with my friends. It's a wonderful life. It is. And as long as we got some of it left, let's just cherish it. And let's have a wonderful attitude as we're going through it, right? We can't change what's going on. There's nothing we can do about it except the stuff, wash your hands. Well, we already probably knew that. You're supposed to wash your hands, right? What else can you do? Nothing. Therefore, why worry? Live your life. Do what they tell you to do to the best of your ability, and it'll be what it's going to be. And there's nothing you can do about it one way or the other.
I want to expand on that, what you just said, because you went in depth the other day on the radio program. We went down the CDC guidelines of everything to do. Wash your hands, no handshaking, staying a good distance, social distance away from each other. And I went through all of the things, and you pointed it out. You said, okay, Keith, after you've done that, what else can you do? I said, nothing. And you said, you're right. So follow the guidelines and then be appreciative of the day that you have today, that you're here and you're alive.
There is no guarantee that there will be a tomorrow for any of us. But there is an absolute guarantee that we're alive right this minute. Make the most of it. And I can say that again, make the most of it. Just in case it goes wherever it's going to go tomorrow, deal with that when the time comes. But today, got some food. You obviously have a TV or you wouldn't be watching us, right? Make the most of it. Smile. Fix some popcorn. Do whatever. But be happy. Be happy. Because you can't change what's going on around you. You can insulate yourself from it with your attitude. And it can be done. I promise you. I feel good. I'm happy. Because I'm not trying to second guess stuff I can't do anything about. I'm not wasting 1 second of my day. Not 1 second of it.
Do you care if I tell our friends the conversation that you and I had on the radio about the toilet paper issue?
Yeah.
When I brought up to Gary on the radio program, I said, there's a run on this toilet paper, and you can't even find it on the shelves. And Gary said, yeah, in our day, Keith, it was the Sears and Roebuck catalog. we didn't even worry about it. But you said that just simply to make to make everything in perspective, you know, about where we are in today's life as opposed to where we were in
That's right.
the
Life will
olden
go
days.
on. We're resilient as human beings. I mean, they didn't have any toilet paper in the caves, did they? Do you think any of the settlers that settled this country had toilet paper? Huh? None. Zero. Don't let this wonderful good life we've had make you think you can't go on without it. You can, and you'll do just fine. So attitude. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come right back, and I'm going to talk to you about attitude a little bit.
You're so right. You know, when we had that conversation, Gary pointed out our grandparents would probably give us a little bit of a scolding over some of the things that we worry about that they never had. Stay with us. This program is called Simply the Law, and your host, Gary C. Johnson, will be back right after this break.
People are asking, what is judo law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based on that principle. It worked so well he named it judo law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I started out this program by saying thank you for being here, because you bring a positive spin to just about everything that we face. And the biggest thing is what you said in that opening statement. We're here today. And I really like that.
And you're alive, and you got your friends and your family around you. Be happy. It's a choice. Happiness is a choice. This is a book by John C. Maxwell, Maxwell Daily Reader. And every day he had a thought throughout this book of something you might want to know. I thought it's an interesting book. I've read it, and I picked it up a while ago and looked at it on my way just before I came over here, and I said, even though I've got all this stuff on my program, I'm going to have to read from this book now, because I reached over and picked it up, okay? And one of the things that, when I first opened it up, that came striking out at me is about attitude. So, Keith, would you read them what Mr. Maxwell had to say about attitude?
Oh, and listen, by the way, I found glasses that actually fit now.
But can you see out of them?
I can, and yes, they're the extra wide, if you're wondering exactly how big my head is. All right, the great attitude is your greatest asset. What usually separates the best from the rest? Have you ever thought about that? What separates the gold medalist from the silver medalist in the Olympics? What separates the successful entrepreneur from the one who doesn't make it in life? What makes it possible for one person to thrive after a debilitating accident while another will give up and even die? It is attitude. As Dennis Waitley said in The Winner's Edge, the winner's edge is not in a gifted birth, not in a high IQ or in talent. The winner's edge is all in the attitude, not aptitude. Attitude is the criteria for success. But you can't buy an attitude for $1 million. You see, attitudes are not for sale. For years, I have tried to live by the following statement. I cannot always choose what happens to me, but I can always choose what happens in me. Some things in life are beyond my control. Some things are within it. My attitude in the areas beyond my control can be difference makers. My attitude in the areas that I do control will be the difference maker. In other words, the greatest difference my difference maker can make, and with me, not others. That is why your attitude is your greatest asset or liability. It makes or breaks you. It lifts you up or brings you down. A positive mental attitude will not let you do everything, but it can help you do anything better than you would if your attitude were negative. Make your greatest asset your attitude today. That is wonderful.
Agree with me, my friends? What he said? It's all right here. The choices we make, right here. How we decide to live life, right here. Inside this 3 little pounds that controls everything we do. We are our brain. And speaking of that, the brain is at the mercy of the rest of us, right? The brain's got to be carried around by the feet and the legs. Now, what are we doing, or you doing, to make sure that you take care of your brain? It only has this one body, right, to carry this brain around. Are you exercising? Are you trying to eat healthy foods so the brain will have some good nutrients? You got to take care of the old brain if you're going to be able to survive, because it's all you got. You are your brain, my friends. And in your brain is your attitude, your emotions, everything. It's right there, that 3 pounds. So, the lesson I'm going to try to teach you tonight is respect your brain and take care of it. And more so than anything, respect your body and love your body and take care of it, because if you don't, your brain will fail you.
Gary, so you talked about the body on a show before, about if you truly love your body, you'll take it out for a walk, you'll put the right food in it, you'll do everything. Now you're talking to us about loving the brain. So in order to help the brain, do we need to read? We need to educate. We need to learn. We need to give the brain things to work on. Stimulate it, to think about. Same thing, just a different scenario.
So you see how important our brain is? Because in the end, everything you do or accomplish in life will be done because of your brain. So protect your brain. Take care of it. Treat it right. And more than anything, love yourself. Because once you start loving yourself, you have the ability to love others. And that is extremely important, my friends. Let's take a break and we'll come right back.
Very good segment, and I'm sure we've seen inspirational stories about individuals who have done great things at great odds. It's all because of the attitude, the very thing that we read from the book. Stay with us. Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson, right after this break.
Eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. It can be a tough territory to reach when it comes to marketing. We can help. We can also help you find your identification. And we have plenty of services to do it and a lot of experience behind us, over 37 years. In fact, we've either booked or sold nearly $70 million in advertising in this region. You need a new voice, a new idea, a new concept? Casebolt Marketing. We're ready to go to work for you today. Our motto is nothing happens until you make it happen. So let's get started today.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. You know, that whole segment on attitude, I started out this program by saying, thank you, it's so good to see you. I even tell people, I'm not sure that Gary's radio show is a show or his television show is a show. I sometimes look at it as therapy, because inevitably I come in here with worries. I listen to the national news. I'm scared about this. And by the time I spend 30 minutes with you, I walk out with a smile saying, I'll do what I can, I'll do the best I can, and I'll enjoy the day.
Remember the simple things. Be impeccable with the word. Don't take anything personal, right? Don't assume anything. 4 agreements. And do the best you can do without worrying about what the best someone else can do. Simple, right? If you can do it. Being impeccable with the word's hard, though. It really is.
But isn't right now, Gary, the most important thing, the last one you said? Just do the best you can do. You can only do the best you can do.
Without worrying about the best others can do, because if you start measuring your worth based upon what other people are doing, then you're doing a true disservice to yourself. I want to talk to you a little bit about what this fellow has to say about failure, Mr. Maxwell, because in this time, there may be a bunch of failures going on. That doesn't mean the end of anything. Failure is part of life. I read something the other day that said every successful person has failed more times than most people have tried.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow. So right now our friends would say, Gary, you mean to tell me the great Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Henry Ford, all the people that we talk about, they had failures?
I'll bet you that if you went back and looked that you'd find all kinds of stocks that Warren Buffett had took a beating on. It's just life. But that didn't stop him. And he turned out to be the Oracle of Omaha. But I'm going to have Keith read to you a little bit about what this book has to say about failure. And I think you should take it to heart.
The title is Let Failure Point You to Success. Oliver Goldsmith was born the son of a poor preacher in Ireland in the 1700s. Growing up, he wasn't a great student. In fact, his schoolmaster labeled him a stupid blockhead. He did manage to earn a college degree, but he finished at the bottom of his class. He was unsure of what he wanted to do. At first, he tried to become a preacher, but it didn't suit him, and he was never ordained. Next, he tried law, but he failed at that. He then settled on medicine, but he was an indifferent doctor and was not passionate about his profession. He was able to hold several posts only temporarily. Goldsmith lived in poverty, he was often ill, and once even had to pawn his clothes to buy food. It looked like he would never find his way, but then he discovered an interest and an aptitude for writing and translating. At first, he worked as a Fleet Street reviewer and writer, but then he began to write works that came out of his own interest. He secured his reputation as a novelist with The Vicar of Wakefield, a poet with The Deserted Village, and a playwright, She Stoops to Conquer. My friend Tim Masters says that failure is the productive part of success. It provides the road you don't have to travel again, the mountain that you don't have to climb again, and the valley that you don't have to cross again. At the time you're making mistakes, they make you feel like the kiss of Jesus, which was Mother Teresa's term for failure that drive us to God. But if we have the right attitude, they can lead us to what we ought to be doing. Pretty powerful words, and I enjoy reading that section because often in my life when I've come to you with a failure, you always smile and say, did it sting? Did it hurt? And if I say, yes, it did, you always come back with good. You learned something. You're going to be better for it.
And rejoice in it.
Yes. And you know, what the book was saying, it is so hard to do when you're in the valley and you failed to see that this is going to be an experience that helps you and benefits you as you go forward.
I tell them, when I'm teaching attorneys across the country, I tell them, I say, look, you're not going to learn anything from the cases you win. You'll go do the same dumb things again. But boy, when you take the sting of a loss, you will be amazed what you learn. You will go back and you will dissect everything that happened, and you'll see 1,000 mistakes you made that you would have never seen had you won that case. Failure is experience, and experience leads to success. It's that simple, my friends. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
I know a lot of my friends are saying those lessons are so hard to learn. They are, but what Gary just pointed out, you'll never forget them as long as you live. Stay with us. Simply the Law and Gary C. Johnson back after you see this.
Who really knows which lawyer you should choose? Other lawyers know. They've invited Gary C. Johnson to teach his method of judo law in Denver, Atlanta, New Orleans, and across the nation. Gary used judo law to set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the history of Kentucky. Now, which lawyer should you choose? The choice is clear. Gary C. Johnson. Dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law, and thank you so much for watching this program. As you can tell, we have several books on the desk. Gary and I have kind of been going back over the 20 years that we've been doing things and rereading books, from How to Win Friends and Influence People to John C. Maxwell to The Prophet and everything.
As they say, things pop in my head. During the break, something told me I needed to have Keith read this to you, what he's getting ready to read. It's about arguing and unsolicited advice. So take it to heart. It's great advice. Keith, read to us.
Get ready. It is from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The subject, you can't win an argument. Shortly after the close of World War I learned an invaluable lesson one night in London. I was manager at the time for Sir Ross Smith. During the war, Sir Ross had been the Australian ace out in Palestine, and shortly after peace was declared, he astonished the world by flying halfway around it in 30 days. No such feat had ever been attempted before. It created a tremendous sensation. The Australian government awarded him $50,000. The King of England knighted him, and for a while he was the most talked about man under the Union Jack. I was attending a banquet one night given in Sir Ross's honor, and during the dinner the man sitting next to me told a humorous story which hinged on the quotation, "There's a divinity that shapes our ends. Rough hew them how we will." He mentioned the quotation was from the Bible. He was wrong. I knew that. I knew it positively. There couldn't be the slightest doubt about it. And so, to get a feeling of importance and to display my superiority, I appointed myself as an unsolicited and unwelcome committee of one to correct him. He stuck to his guns. "What do you mean from Shakespeare? Impossible, absurd." The quotation was from the Bible, and he knew it. The storyteller was sitting on my right, and Frank Gammon, an old friend of mine, was seated at my left. Mr. Gammon had devoted years to the study of Shakespeare, so the storyteller and I agreed to submit the question to Mr. Gammon. Mr. Gammon listened, and he kicked me under the table, and then he said, "Dale, you are wrong. The gentleman is right. It's from the Bible." On our way home that night, I said to Mr. Gammon, "Frank, you knew that quotation was from Shakespeare." "Yes," he replied, "of course. Hamlet, Act 5, Scene 2. But you see, we were the guest at a festive occasion, my dear Dale. Why prove to a man that he is wrong? Is that going to make him like you? Why not let him save his face? In fact, he didn't ask for your opinion. He didn't want it. Why argue with him? Always avoid the acute angle. The man who said that taught me a lesson I'll never forget. I not only had made the storyteller uncomfortable, but had put my friend in an embarrassing situation. How much better it would have been had I not become argumentative. It was a sorely needed lesson because I had been an arguer all my life during my youth. I had argued with my brother about everything under the Milky Way. When I went to college, I studied logic and argumentation and went in debating contests. Talk about being from Missouri. I was born there. I had to be shown. Later, I taught debating and argumentation in New York, and once, I am ashamed to admit, I planned to write a book on the subject. Since then, I have listened to, engaged in, and watched the effect of thousands of arguments. As a result of all this, I have come to the conclusion that there is only one way under high heaven to get the best of an argument. That is to avoid it. Avoid it as you would avoid a rattlesnake and an earthquake. Oh my goodness. Now that's probably hit all of us pretty hard.
Is that he was giving unsolicited advice, right? Which we've talked about on this program many times, that unsolicited advice is nothing more than camouflage criticism.
Not only giving the unsolicited advice, but he wanted to argue about it,
Right.
to tell that his unsolicited advice was right, and then to make it even more profound, He pulled in his friend who was a bystander and drug him into it.
Who had enough sense to know what to do. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
If this has happened to you, or if you've been guilty of doing it, don't worry, you're not alone. We all have. We'll be back with Simply the Law and Gary C. Johnson after this.
People are asking, what is judo law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based upon that principle. It worked so well, he named it judo law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back in. Gary, help us here, because maybe some of our friends says, but it was my duty to correct the person. Oh, my friend always wants me to tell him if he's wrong, or they wanted me to point it out. I was doing them a favor. How many other excuses can we come up with other than that?
When you do that, all you're trying to do is what he was talking about, show how superior you are to the other person, so that a dopamine will flow and you'll feel good about showing how smart you are. You've made the other person mad. You may have made an enemy. You've gained nothing when you do it. Zero, zilch. And you have harmed yourself, all by giving unsolicited advice and telling someone that they're wrong. Now, if their being wrong is going to impact you in some way, or someone else in some way, you might tiptoe around and try to figure out how to deal with it. But if it's like this, or somebody quoting something or talking about something, whatever, keep your mouth shut. Zip it. Because all you're going to do is use words, not be impeccable with words, and you're going to harm another human being, and you're going to make them feel bad. And trust me, the whole purpose of this life, living it, is to feel good. We need to feel good, right? Be happy. Smile. And you sure don't want to say to someone else and use words that would cause them to feel bad.
You know, I'm just sitting here thinking how many good, really good friendships have been lost over debating politics, religion, sporting events. My goodness, because you have an opinion that someone feels they need to correct, and the book says don't do it.
As Dale Carnegie says in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I've always said should have been titled How to Be a Better Human Being, the only way to win an argument, there's only one way to win it. Don't argue. Period. Just don't do it. And I know there's people maybe watching the show say, oh, but I love to argue. In other words, you love to make people mad at you, in other words, right? No good can come from arguing. Even if you win the argument, you lose because the other person is going to be so mad at you that they will hold it against you forever. You can't win an argument. Period. You can't do it.
If you love to argue, you better learn how to love to be lonely.
Yeah.
You're not
You
going
won't have any friends. You won't have them long if you do.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. I mean, all of our friends, we really do appreciate it. Gary and I are trying to get together and stay positive, and having you here is a positive thing for us. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thanks for tuning in to Simply the Law. We look forward to seeing you again next week at this same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.